Coming to you live, pre-recorded, with more gray hair now than Dante. It's the Vox Cascadia podcast. Welcome back, Connor.
Hey Chuck, how you doing, man?
Good. It's just you and me tonight. Just the boys. No
Just the
Tyler.
boys. Sadly, yeah, Tyler's not here. He's too busy having to do his job instead of dropping out to, record with the boys and talk about the greatest game on the history of mankind ever. But, totally understandable.
Soccer.
Football! I've been sending you all the soccer memes I see because there's like some big European tournament going on.
There's a tournament in the Americas too. Actually, the Copa America's going on right now too.
Ah, yeah, I didn't see anything about that. I just see a bunch of Europeans fighting in the street. It's great.
Yeah, I've been watching a couple hours of soccer every day. It's glorious. So, what have you been up to though?
Not much myself. It was kind of a busy weekend. We went to the Airplane Museum in Seattle, which was really fun. I got to read all about airplanes, and we got to go inside like what used to be Air Force One, which was really cool. Like you actually got to walk through a plane that used to service it, so that was pretty sweet. We got to look at a bunch of World War II planes and pretend I was a fighter pilot, like I wanted to be when I was a kid.
I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was a kid too. I watched Top Gun and I wanted to be Maverick.
Everyone did. There's something cool about planes. If only like there was a way to fly planes and practice dogfighting, but it wasn't life or death, and also didn't waste a bajillion dollars worth of gas.
Yeah, it's called video games.
Yeah, but that's not the same. I want to actually be in the plane.
You could be one of those guys that like sets up the crazy like simulations where you've got 5 monitors and a chair that like twists you around and stuff.
I might do that in the when video games get better and like VR gets way way more intense.
VR. Have you messed around with VR before?
A little bit, but unfortunately, most of them don't really work great with my glasses. And when I take them off, they kind of just fuck with me. So, it is what it is.
So because of how much of a nerd you are, you're unable to experience some of the best nerding around.
Exactly. It's a true ironic moment.
That's just wow. That's horrible. So, hey, what have you been doing in the hobby?
Not a ton. Just getting. So, as some of you that play Big Hammer know, there was or might know, there's that huge update that came out, like their balanced data slate. We got that last week. Hopefully, we'll get Kill Teams probably the day you're listening to this, maybe the day before. But AdMech got buffs. Oh my god, we finally are a fully functioning army. So that's reinvigorated my wants and needs to play Big Hammer. So I've been building a lot of Big Hammer AdMech stuff.
Nice. And you mentioned too you were trying to strip a model.
Yeah, right beforehand I was talking to you about this. We'll have some photos of them properly. I'll make sure to put those on the Vox Cascadia Instagram. Go follow now. But I have been working for a while now on just my homebrews, Space Marine chapters. Even though Marines aren't the most exciting, they're pretty fun to kit bash. It's fun to do those. They're simple paint projects. And I saw my chapter scheme's very something that looks like Thorn or looks like Blood Angels. It's dark maroon, and then from the knee down, it's kind of like a bone color. And for my stern guards and blade guards, they covered in robes, but I didn't want to use white robes because they wouldn't look good next to the bone color. So I'm thinking of doing a green color on it, kind of like the Deathwing for the Dark Angels. I was going to talk to Tyler about this, but sadly he's not here. So sorry, Tyler. Next time, buddy. Unfortunately, though, that means I'm going to have to change some of the paint I already put on the Stern Guard veterans I had started up, because otherwise I'll have like 5 colors on there. And I tried painting over them, and it's just not working out. So I'm going to have to learn how to strip a model, essentially.
Well, there's one thing I know, it's stripping and taking paint off models too.
Well, both of those are great things for you to know. So yeah, next time I come down to your place, or like you come up to hang out with good old Nicky boy, we're gonna have me show up like a toddler, like or not like a toddler, but a trick or treater. But instead of like asking for candy, I'm like, can you help me strip this model, please? Because I'm terrified I'm gonna put my bits in and they're all gonna melt.
Well, what are you going to use to strip them?
I don't know. See, that's the problem. I know you've told me before, and I know I can probably just ask again, but I'm too lazy to do that. And I always like doing the first time something like that with someone that's done it before.
Well, as someone who always likes to tell people how to do things, I've got 25 years in management, and uh, I really enjoy telling people how to do stuff. So let's give you a little primer on how I strip models. So a couple ways you can do it. One, LA is totally awesome, which is about $1 a bottle. You go to the dollar store, you can get a huge bottle of it for $1. that if it's not like when I was painting, started my Brood Brothers, I did a color scheme, didn't really like it, and since it was pretty fresh paint and I was able to just throw it in a glass with it, leave it there for a little bit, and then scrub it with a toothbrush, and it came off. If you have anything that's a little more intense, if it's like spray primer, like rattle can primer, it's harder to get off, but you may be able to take it down just to the primer. But if you're trying to just get the layers of paint off, LA is totally awesome. Also, an ultrasonic cleaner is really good too. I picked one off of Amazon for like 25 bucks, and that does wonders on it as well too.
Nice. That's good to hear. When you talk about like pulls the layers off the paint, does that also remove like I generally use rattle can? So does that remove the rattle can or just the stuff on top of the rattle can layer?
It If you do it long enough, it will take the rattle can off too. But like when I did my Brood Brother Trooper that I was trying for my paint scheme, it just took pretty much the layer of paint off. So the primer was still there, so I was able to just back basically paint right back over it again. I think it took a little bit off of some of the basing stuff, and where I didn't have it, I had some resin bits on there that I think the primer came off of. But on the plastic, it just stays on the plastic.
Okay, awesome. Because yeah, all I really got to strip is just one of the helmets because I'm trying to put essentially like a coppery bronze color over black, and even like 3 layers deep, it's just not really turning out great. It's too different than what I have on the other models, so it'll bother me. So I just think essentially need to remove like some trim on 2 sets of arms and then the helmet itself. Because for what I made for the stern guards was they're going to have black and maroon helmets, and the copper is not going over that black well. So yeah, thankfully, sounds like I'll just have to pick up some totally awesome stuff and an old toothbrush and scrub some stuff good.
Yeah, it's hard to be precise with it. So you're really, if you just want to get the whole model back down to primer, that's going to be the way to do it. But if you can't really be precise with it. I think you just have to kind of paint over it at that point.
Gotcha. Yeah, because what I'll end up doing, if anything, is I am a madman. I paint every model in subassembly to some degree because I know there'll be blank spots, and it's why I'm such a slow painter. But it bothers me otherwise, and I kind of prefer that way when they're that detailed. So thankfully, I just need to put in some two arms and a helmet, and that shouldn't be too bad to scrub off then.
Yeah. Well, actually, and yeah, if you got them in sub assemblies, that makes it even easier because I very rarely paint in sub assemblies. Every once in a while, I paint in sub assemblies, but most of the time, I'm like, if I can't get the brush to it, then it doesn't need paint. It's already got primer. It's fine. It's in shadow. Or I will, before I paint the stuff around the outside, I'll shove the brush in there and just get some paint on it. That's what I'm finding with my Brood Brothers. I got a lot of weapons close to them that and they don't have much behind them too, which is nice. And if they do, I'm like, I'm not painting for Golden Demon.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm just like I said, I'm a madman because I am crazy, and yeah, I have no real explanation for it other than just I started, with AdMech, and they kind of need to be done in subassembly, and that taught me a bad habit.
Yeah. I think you were a little stunned when I started building my AdMech that I didn't put them in sub assemblies. And I'm like, screw it. If I can't get to it, I can't get to it. Then I also painted one of them and stopped painting them, so that helped too.
Yeah, you should go back and paint them when you're done with your Brood Bros. But I'm glad to hear you're kind of settling on Brood Bros though, at least for it to go open, hopefully.
It's kind of one of those like shit or get off the pot things because we've got what, today's the 25th. We're recording this, and Tacoma's in what, like 4 weeks from this weekend or something, 3 weeks or something.
And hell yeah, like 25 days give or take, because I think it starts on the 19th. So yeah, if today's the 25th, rough math, fact, it's just about 25 days.
Yeah, and I listened to the Dave Ascension book about Brood Brothers, and it was really interesting, and I'd heard it was good, and I enjoyed it. It was. Have you read that one yet?
I have not, but that is on the list because yeah, Cody was talking about how good it is, and I know Admech are in it, and even if they're bad guys, I got to read it eventually.
Yeah, the Admech are the bad guys. That might have been my favorite part too.
I love you so much, pal.
It does, when you read through the book and how it kind of resolves, it's actually really interesting at the end, and it kind of makes sense about why certain people side with certain people. So between reading about those guys, seeing the new box come out, also I listened to Squad Games and Command Point about their breakdown of Brood Brothers. They just sounded cool, and I already had the Patriarch and already had him painted, so I figured that's a big chunk of it. I didn't realize though that I would then have to paint another like said what 15, 16 models for it too. I wasn't really thinking about that part, so I have my entire painting desk is filled with the the disciples of the four-armed emperor.
Nice. That sounds pretty cool. What are you doing for a paint scheme? We'll throw photos up, I'm sure, but I haven't seen anything yet. I think.
Yeah, I'm going pretty close to the box art. So they are my scheme is basically I primed them black, and then I did like a gray, like Mechanicus standard gray through the airbrush onto the armor, and then kind of as like focused on the armor, but then also a zenithal on the rest of the stuff, the rest of the like cloth and stuff. So the armor is all gray. It's going to have red accents, and then I went back over the Mechanicus standard gray with the stuff that was like the cloth that kind of had a zenithal on it with black Templar, and shaded that in a little bit. And then I've gone back and bumped up the armor a little bit more too.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. I'm very excited to see them in person. I like that you're always doing the box art too, because that kind of makes it easy to compare your awesome painting skills to GW's, and then I can tease you about that because you're not a professional grade painter, Chuck. You idiot.
That was kind of cold, Connor. I mean, no, I'm not a professional grade painter, but
Also, it's no more cold than what you say to me on a regular basis. Come down. Sorry. I don't have that dog in me. I can't be rude. Excuse
yeah,
me. I can't be rude. It just feels wrong, even
you,
jokingly doing it.
yeah, you tried to, and then just I don't know. Like I feel like mine comes off as like charming and playful. Yours was just mean, buddy. Let's take a break for a couple minutes. I'm gonna go cry one out. Okay, and we'll come back. Okay,
All right, sounds great.
okay. All right, we're back. I wiped away the tears, and I'm going to continue on. So no, I do give you a lot of crap. Love you, but I tease you like again the little brother that I never had or wanted.
You know what? I'm glad to be unwanted. I'm glad that I have forced my way into your life, like a Gene Stiller forcing their way into a vet guard. Oh, bringing it all around back into the circle, baby.
So speaking of the Gene Stealers, like I said, I played a game this past weekend against Chris up here in Vancouver, and Chris, who actually was one of the top players at the Blunt Force Beatdown with his Mandrakes, and he brought Nemesis Claw, and so I got to run him out for the first time. It was really interesting, and I I wasn't good with them, but I still won, and I think I won just because Chris's dice kind of failed him. So it was I brought the Patriarch because going into an elite team, I figured that it'd be good to send the big boy out. Plus he was fully painted, which was nice too, so I could have at least one fully painted model. I don't play with half painted teams. I just there's something like if you do that, that's go out, go play, have fun. Nick has given me a complex about playing with half painted teams, and when I even told him that I was playing with a half painted team, he shunned me a little bit for a while. So my team was battle ready to go, but not fully painted. I'm hoping to maybe even after we talk tonight. I think I'm done with the base coats on them, and I'm gonna get some shades down. But the game itself ended winning 15-13. We played on one of the WTC boards actually, which is pretty interesting. I know that Chris is going to be playing in the he's playing in the TTS stuff. I think using those boards, so he wanted to try that out, and it was good. Like I said, I didn't play the team very optimized. I almost kind of played them like Casterkin with a giant Patriarch because I my plasma killed two Marines, my Melta killed a Marine, and my Patriarch killed two Marines. So left my Sapper open for an Alpha Strike, and luckily the ploy where you can retain an extra one for heavy cover helped him live. But that killed my Sniper, who never got to do anything, and kind of my Knife Fighter didn't really do anything because I got him in a bad spot. So it was interesting. It was fun though. The rerolls are nice. I kept forgetting to use the extra dash to move some people around, but it was fun to run them out and a good game with Chris because we both had a couple take backs and some things that we're trying to figure out with the team.
Nice. Well, yeah, sounds like you played them a little bit almost like Casterkin Light, just having all your gunners do the work. But I was going to ask, how's it feel playing a not so mid range team, but fully embracing the Horde at this point?
Yeah, there was a lot of guys out there. Yeah, like deploying, I just kind of threw people on the board because I had so many people to put out there. And even though it was only like 11 after the base team and the Patriarch, they're a little more squishy than Kasserkin, just with one less wound. They don't shoot as good, but the rerolls were nice. And then having that like big beat stick of the Patriarch, who actually did get killed. He was fun though because charging into someone and hitting on twos, 5-6 damage, relentless rending was a lot of damage going through. I took one of their tac ops, the one where if you for their leader, where if you do 12 damage, you score a point, and then if you live at the end of the game, you score another point. And unfortunately, he didn't live at the end of the game, so I lost that. I tried to mind control one of Chris's Marines, and I rolled a 1. So the mind control didn't go off, unfortunately, but I tried it just for the fun of it.
That's always fair. I do think mind control, as cool as it is, won't be that useful, even in, especially in Marines, just because they've got the higher APL, which makes it harder. But yeah, I can imagine how a Patriarch is pretty good into them just for shredding, especially 12 health Marines.
Yeah, he went down. He went down probably maybe three fights or so. I think he got shot once too, and had the 4-up invuln, but I don't think I saved much with it. And I didn't have any cover saves too, but it was fun. I've been working on him every day. Got the box weekend before last and built them up right away. And I had an extra box of Cadians sitting around, so I was able to build out the entire roster, including the Flamer. The only thing I don't have is I don't have both versions of the Commander, but I could also like snap his arm off and magnetize it, and so then I'd have pretty much everybody on the roster. I also took one of the Brandon was nice enough to hook me up with one of the Megas ones, the female version of it. So I'm painting that up too instead of the one that comes in the box because I don't like the one in the box anywhere near as much as the other one.
Both of the Magos or Magos, whatever they are pretty cool. But yeah, I think the one that doesn't come with the Brood Coven does have a little bit better repose. I think I myself will eventually build the team. Probably going to do one for proper Gene Stealer cults because at one point, we always have the plan of, oh, maybe I'll play 40k. I do think having a Gene Stealer cult army would be pretty cool. And I have an idea for like a Gene Stealer cult versus Tau on an Imperial Hive world as like my setting for those two armies I'm planning on building. But at the same time, I want to make everyone has that idea of the like vet guard, blooded, arguably Wormblade to an extent, but they're a little bit harder to throw in. But now, especially Brood Bros, like counts as all three teams. And I'm thinking I'm going to do something where for Blooded and the Brood Bros, I'll use the Salvor Kim dogs, which are like a penal legion that's all addicted to drugs because, of course, they are. They're penal legion. That's kind of the whole setting of 40k is we give you drugs and then you go fight for us. But I want to do it with the Blooded, where the enforcer or whatever it is, the former commissar or like fellow chaos commissar, I'm going to use as a tech priest with a power fist and a gamma pistol, the one that comes with the 2 robot kit, because it's the same size base and everything, and it's practically the same pose. And then for the Patriarch and then the Ogren, I'll kit bash those using like Necromunda bots to have it be that like this faction of Penal Legion Guard has been loaned to this little tech priest and his robots, and they go around searching for STCs, and he just throws the Penal Legion Guard into the fray while he's too busy running around looking for technology.
I do love how you get into the narrative and story behind your teams because I'm like, they're a team. Um, they're a team, and you have all these great stories behind how you want to do stuff, and I'm like, GW made these guys. They look like this on the box. That's the backstory behind my team.
Well, yeah, that's always fair. Going the box art, I'll never give anyone crap for it. It's obviously just like it's a simple way because it looks good. But I definitely, it's part of the thing that got me into 40k was like building a little story. Like I have my Forge world, as I've mentioned before, with like a whole kit bash idea and like a whole story dedicated to them. And then right now I'm working on my Kroot army from that box, and I'm thinking one of the coolest things about the Kroot is they're able to tell Tyranids purely by smell, or like rather able to tell Gene Stealer cults because they smell like Tyranids, and Tyranids are one of the few things Kroot don't eat. So I'm thinking it'd be like a cool setting for a scenario for like 5 or 6 different kill teams and armies, where I have a Imperial Hive world that has been affected by Gene Stealer cults, but at the same time has kind of like in the past decade or so been taken over by my Tau Sept expansion. So there's plenty of recruit there to help root out the Gene Stealer cult, and that way I can make a whole host of Into the Dark terrain, and like if season 3 is kind of more Hive City themed terrain, we'll do that too. And then have matching bases on all of these, so I can make like the ultimate diorama that's like 2 feet by 2 feet, but has like a Farstalker Kinban, a Brew Brothers, maybe a Pathfinder or like a Compendium Tau team. And I'm thinking maybe I'll put my Space Marines in there too, just because like they're trying to reclaim the world back from the Imperium too.
Yeah, again, and I'm like, these guys are their unit. They're gonna go on a board, and I'm gonna put some terrain on it. I don't have any story. I played Kasrkin for an entire year. Not a single name for any of them. Not a single story for any of them.
You're a madman, Chuck, but no, that's fine. I like I said, I like making the story, and work can be very slow. So I'll come up with ideas, and then I'll have all these great ideas, and never get around to actually painting or making them. So, classic artist.
I mean, I feel like that's how the hobby works. The intention of what I have at work for what I want to do when I get home in the hobby is so massive. I'm like, I could paint like an entire team tonight. I've got these primed and ready to go. I can just knock them out, and then I get home and I sit on the couch and I watch YouTube, and then I talk to you for a little bit, and then I watch more YouTube, and maybe I'll go sit at the painting desk for a little bit. I've actually gotten a ton of painting done, but yeah, I feel like the intention of what I want to do based on what I feel at work versus what I actually get done when I get home is so wildly different.
No, I think everyone in the hobby is can relate to that. It's too real, unfortunately.
Well, a couple weekends ago, you played in the Skinning Pit Summerslam, and while you did not come away a winner, we, as promised, have the winner on the podcast this week. So Connor and I sat down a little bit earlier with Josh Strole, and he was nice enough to talk us through his tournament and give us some ideas about VetGuard and what he's got going on. So let's hear from Josh. Right, and we are joined again by Josh Strole, winner of the Skinning Pit SummerSlam. So Josh now has 2 belts in one of our Kill Team Cascadia tournaments. He's taken home 2 of them now, and his shelf is straining under the weight of them. And we got to know Josh last time in episode 13 a little bit. So if you want to know a little bit more about him and hear about his previous win, jump back to that. But Josh, thanks for joining us again, buddy.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back.
So now there's 4 belts out there in the wild from Kill Team Cascadia tournaments for this season, and you have 2 of them. So let's talk a little bit about your games. This time you brought VetGuard, and your first game you started off against Inquisition, right?
Yeah, I played Kevin, who's one of the locals, and it went pretty well for me. I got some pretty good initiative rolls early on, and I think just ended up out shooting and scoring early, and it worked really well in my favor. But that one could have definitely gone the other way pretty easily.
I know Kevin's been playing some Inquisition, but I guess apparently he's only played against Inquisition with Inquisition because he plays his dad actually, and they both play Inquisition, so he gets a lot of that mirror match. So he hasn't had a chance into anything like VetGuard. So
Yeah.
And then weird thing about this event, you started on board number 1, and since you won and scored really good on your first game, you stayed on board number 1 and you kept winning, your ultimate winner,
Right.
and stayed there the entire time. So that was basically like your home court for the whole tournament.
Yeah, and that was a really VetGuard favorable table. It just kind of worked out super well in my favor.
Yeah, that was a long edge deployment, so 3-inch deployment zones. Do you remember what the map itself was by chance?
I don't remember what the name is, but it's the one where the 4 objectives in the center make a square, and then there are 2 on the center line on the outer edge.
Connor, do you remember the name of that one?
Not off the top of my head, but I am going through my cards, so give me a second.
I think it's called like Center or something, actually.
That sounds right.
It might be center, yeah.
Well, Connor looks that up. Josh, your second game, you paired up into Tyler with Tyler's Nemesis Claw, right?
Yeah, and that one was, Tyler's a scary player. He knows what he's doing. And I think a lot of that is that he kind of got into his head as far as, VetGuard are a really rough matchup for Nemesis Claw, and he went super aggressive turning point 1, and I was able to just kind of punish it. and then I had killed 2 models by the bottom of turn 1, and then 3 more by the bottom of turn 2, and he just, we were done at that point.
Yeah, I was walking by that game and it looked really bloody. I saw a lot of dead Nemesis Claw, not many dead Vet Guard. So
Yeah, and he charged guardsman with his plasma gunner and was trying to bounce into my backlines with it, but the heroic little gunner managed, or guardsman managed, to take both fight actions to die. So that worked really well for me.
did you roll good or Tyler rolled bad or what happened on that
I
one?
think I think like a mix of both. I got my hit that I needed, and then they're doing their bolter fists, so I was just able to parry out.
Nice. So that win against Tyler took you into stayed on table one, stayed on table one the entire time. We're gonna have to rename that map deployment. We're gonna call it the Strole.
Yeah.
If Connor ever figures out what it's actually called.
I did now confirm it is indeed Sinner. So yeah, we can call it Stroll instead. And kind of still fits the theme.
Yeah. So then in round 3, you ended up against Sean Ross and Sean's Pathfinders. Same board again.
And that was easily the scariest matchup. The only other time I've played Sean, I was trying breachers out into his pathfinders, and he just wiped the floor with me. Um, but I think we got into each other's heads a little bit. I did my normal vet guard thing of yeeting them forward and scoring a lot of points early, and then we started trading 1 for 1 super aggressively. But because I was already ahead, it just ended up working out in my favor.
Yeah, and then with that win against Sean, that actually put you in the final, and you ended up playing Tony and Tony's Novitiates. Tell us a little bit about that game.
That game is, I think, a good example of, playing other teams and knowing other teams is a huge advantage. And Novies are a team that I've played a fair bit, and I kind of knew what to expect going into it. And so I was able to kind of punish his tactics and continue to just do vet guard things. It was also loot again. So my very first action, I ran to the 2 center objectives and looted both of them. And it was just like, deal with that. And yeah, so it worked out just really well in my favor, kind of getting him stuck on that back foot immediately.
Yeah, well, nice job, and you took down the championship, took home the termination box on launch day because we only hold tournaments on launch days apparently too. That's the third
Yeah.
third in a row we've had where a box is launched. So congratulations on that, and you got the fancy new Night Lord's belt, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I went super hard because I wanted that termination box. Got to save myself 100 and change.
Yeah, I saw that you. I think I saw something in Discord about how you were wanting to pick it up from Shiv, but you weren't able to get into the pre-orders, so that worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
So Josh, which team of Termination are you more excited for?
That's really hard. I think they're both super exciting. I think the Jaegers are probably more interesting and more enjoyable. I think Brood Brothers are the better team overall, but I was telling Chuck before we started, I think I'm going to try Brood Brothers and then immediately just be like, I would rather play my vet card.
That's fair, yeah. They're definitely a very similar team, kind of like an echo fighter almost. So it'll be very interesting to see players that normally play Blooded or Vet Guard if they end up swapping over to Brood Bros or if they prefer their original choice.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me is that Into the Breach that vet guard have is just such a huge, it's a big defining factor for the faction, but also because you're jamming 14 models in a small deployment zone, extending it out 3 inches does a ton to avoid like turn 1 alpha strike blasts. And Brood Brothers gets that a little bit with their covert guises, but then you're not getting other equipment.
Yeah, I played with the Brood Brothers this past weekend against Chris up here in Vancouver, and I had 3 of the covert guys that I took, and then I think I put a knife or a pistol on one of the other guys, knife I think actually. And now that helped me move out a little bit. Besides that, Into the Breach, what else would you be missing? What else do you think they're missing that the Vet Guard have?
In Death Atonement is the other really janky tech that they have that I really love because it's got the obvious play of like, oh, my guy died, but I'm going to continue to activate him anyways and shoot you. But, it's really good for counter hugs. If they try to hold you hostage and then kill you and go do something else, you're just like, nah, we're still hanging out, we're friends, and they just get stuck in the open.
Counter hugs. I like that. Now, you took Breachers to Blunt Force Beatdown. Why did you switch off them to Vetguard?
I feel like Vetguard are better. I liked Breachers, but I got pretty lucky at Blunt Force Beatdown with like there's certain deployments that Breachers just have a really hard time in, and there's certain matchups that Breachers have a really hard time with. Like I don't see myself beating Pathfinders with Breachers basically ever, and so while Breachers are kind of a fun thing, they feel much more one note than Vetguard, and if that note doesn't work, then they're just sad.
Sad Breachers and their void armor, right?
Yes.
Well, it's sad to see the Breachers go away. I think they're one of the coolest teams in the game as someone who loves the big giant combos. But you talked about swapping over to Vetguard and maybe trying out the Rubros or the Pioneers. Any idea what you're going to be bringing up next for a tournament, though, if you're coming up to Tacoma or the next KTC event?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be making it to Tacoma, but to the next event, it'll depend. If there's a prize that I really need, I'll probably bring Vetguard again. But if I'm feeling a little bit less sweaty, it might be Breachers or it might be any other kind of team that I convince myself to finish painting in time.
That's totally fair. They're all good options, and I like the idea of like, damn, there's a sick prize I want. Time to pull out the Vetguard, all reliable type of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think the next tournament that we're going to be having is going to be Killscream 3, and you got a ticket to that from your Blunt Force Beatdown win. And at Killscream 3, we have a golden ticket. So that's going to be a pretty big prize out there. Gets you a chance to go to the World Championships of Warhammer. There's also going to be an even bigger belt to add to your shelf. So if Killscream 3 was tomorrow, would you bring Vetguard? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is there any teams with Vetguard that you really fear?
The melee ones. And our local meta doesn't have a whole lot of that, so I don't get a whole lot of experience against it. But I feel like my answers into like Felgor and Commandos and G-Pox are very limited. And so that feels like the rough matchups for them.
And is there any teams that you'd love to play against with Vetguard where you just see them on the board and not knowing you're going to win, but you're very confident about what your kit gets you?
Yeah. So yeah, the knowing I'm going to win one is definitely most elite teams. But the fun matchups for sure are things like Novies, I think, go up there because they have a lot of similar tricks. I think Kazarkin could be fun to play into. A lot of elves are pretty fun to play into because they're running around doing all their tricks and you're just trying to die slow enough.
Now, you're not going to make it to Tacoma, but if you win Killscream 3, would you be going to Atlanta?
I don't know. I'd have to look into that. That would be a first for me.
Well, it's a pretty big tournament, and it sounds like, I don't know if you've heard stories of the tournament itself from this last year. It sounded like it was pretty interesting, is one way to put it.
I know very little other than Brandon went.
Yeah, that was heard some stuff from him, but I think if you do win, I'd love to see you go because I think you'd represent the Northwest really well, and I think you'd do great against your opponents there. And you run into some melee teams too.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you.
Well, Josh, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking some time to chat with us again. Like I said, episode 13, you can find out Josh's kind of journey into the game and how he did the last tournament. And maybe we'll be talking to you again in mid-October after Killscream 3 for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be back. And I hope to come back again.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us again, Josh. I think I said thank you like 14 times. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be, well, maybe we'll be talking to Connor in October, but
I would love to. I don't think that's going to happen because we're going to have a lot of big names, and I've not been doing nearly enough kill team to stay in practice. But that would be pretty fun to do. I did have something though instead of practicing kill team. I've tried out another game, Chuck.
Yeah, what game is that?
I've been trying out Legions Imperialis, and let me tell you, that one is extremely, extremely fun.
I saw you had a little army running around, even a littler army. What are you liking about it?
Yeah, they are, first of all, like you said, little. 6 millimeters tall. They're like a single Marine is shorter than a penny. They're adorable. I I want to hold them all in my hand and be like, these are my little baby boys and my little baby tanks and baby planes, and I love you all. I feel like a mama hen almost.
You don't do that with your AdMech already?
I normally do, but it's the thing of like, because they're smaller, that urge is even stronger, you know?
AdMech are also pretty pokey too. The Marines aren't as pokey.
Yeah. That's a fair point. The AdMech, I love them all, but it's like these are my little soldiers, while the other ones are like these are my little babies.
So besides being adorable, what are you liking about the game?
First of all, it's got the best thing that any good game should have: alternating activations. Warhammer, Games Workshop, please, 11th edition, make an activation. Alternating activations. I know you've done 10 of back and forth, but I just think it's better. That's just my personal preference, but I think it results in a much more dynamic game of like what I like so much about Kill Team is I need both, my heavy gunner and my, say, like Sicarian here, but which one do I sacrifice in order to score points or maybe kill an opponent that will, result in points further down the game. I think that's a really fun mechanic, and it should be in the game more. And thankfully, that is the entire basis of Legions Imperialis. It's also possibly even more lethal than Kill Team. Like, if you shoot, you will probably kill most of their squad. It's super, super fun, which means even though you're playing with a bajillion models, it's kind of like Kill Team, where the first turn is a lot of positioning, and then turn 2 is all the killing, and then turn 3 and 4 is just like, all right, we're down to like a third of our original force. How can I still score points to outscore you, type of deal?
How big a board do you play on? And how long are the games?
How big of a board kind of depends. I think generally it's supposed to be 2 by 3 feet or maybe 2 by 2, but I've seen plenty of people both. The intent of Imperialis is it's almost like a historical game, kind of like Horus Heresy, but a little bit more about like the intent behind it is its narrative almost, which is pretty fun because I've always gravitated to those games a little bit more. But yeah, so about 2 by 3 feet, which is pretty fun. And movement is a really cool mechanic because there's orders that you assign in the like command phase essentially, and there's 4 of them. There's first fire, which means you don't move at all, but you get to shoot before anyone else, which is really cool. There is advance, which is like your standard, make your normal movement and then shoot. There is charge, which is you double your movement and then you don't get to shoot, but as long as you end up in engagement range, you can fight people. And then there was march, which would be like the Kill Team's equivalent of move and dash. But for infantry, you get to triple your movement, but you can't shoot for doing so. So it's super fun of like dynamics of how am I going to move these troops up the board?
It sounds pretty cool. I stayed away from it because when the launch box came out, it looked adorable, and I'm a sucker for launch boxes. I'm doing everything I can to stay away from Skaven Tide. I almost was pulled in by the idea of the Spearhead games, but I watched like a battle report and it seemed kind of boring. So maybe we'll have to get together and you can show me around the Legions Imperialis. I'm sure I can find a launch box somewhere still.
Yeah, they definitely exist, and the game's super fun. Like I said, anyone that wants to play it, please let me know because I've been building up my army. That's the other fun thing. It's extremely fun to build. Like, building has always been one of my favorite parts, hobby-wise, of these games, but Imperialis is just, there's an extra little special thing that feels more like you're building a model kit, you feel like a grandpa building his model trains because it's just much more like feels of that scale. But yeah, I'm definitely building up the army, and TrickyCon 2.0, or whenever we have that, I'll have to bring some over and we can have some Blood Angels versus World Leaders violence.
Well, Connor, you said you've got 5 hot takes for us. So let's start with hot take number 1.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, these are all Kill Team related for the most part. And hot take number 1, we discussed it in Kill Team Cascade's Discord the other day, so everyone get in there. We were discussing balance today, which kind of brought these up for me. But number 1, Kroot, 9 health, make it happen. It's stupid that they're only 8.
So you think that would be the thing that would fix Kroot is 1 more health?
I don't think it would be. It might. I think it would be a huge help as is because Kroot are supposed to be some pretty tanky, or maybe not tanky, but pretty strong animals. Like, there are multiple sources of Kroot fighting one-on-one with a Marine and walking away, or living, or like fighting them to a standstill, which arguably I would like to see reflected in Kill Team, but I understand that they're kind of more of a mid-range team, so giving that much strength would be a little too OP. But I do think 9 wounds, kind of like what they had to do for Zangors, would give them a much better breakpoint, especially for a team that's pseudo themed around its melee prowess.
All right, and hot take number 2.
Hot take number 2, also Crute related, give them melee equipment and give them something that's a little bit better. Just better melee equipment. It's stupid that they have a ploy to give them what they should already have in base of 4 attacks, especially because, like I said, they're melee themed, and it's a shame that they don't have that. The Compendium Crute have a 4 attack, 3 up weapon skill, 3/5 weapon that costs 2. I would like to see that be added to the Crute.
Well, don't they have a weapon you can take?
That is only on the leader, which is stupid because the leader's got other important things he needs to be alive to do.
Well, don't they have a tack op that you can use to, or strap play to give everybody an extra attack?
Yes, but even then, that attack is turning those Crute from 3 to 4 attacks, and it's still a gun butt profile, I'm pretty sure. It depends on the operative, of course, but for a team that is so themed around melee, the fact that you have to have a ploy to get what most melee-esque teams already have is pretty stupid.
All right, hot take number 3.
Hot take number 3. Legionaries need to go up to 13 wounds. I think that the problem with Legionaries is too much of their budget is put into the Nurgle or the Nurgle keyword, which is an issue because it's the only time you're ever going to see that Marines be able to be tanky in that type of team. However, I think if they're up to 13, it makes Power Swords, which are a very common profile at this point, a lot less scary to them. And I also think it would give people the opportunity to try out a little bit more non-Nurgle only stuff, because a lot of teams' power budget is just designed around these ploys that are never getting used.
So you want to give them an extra wound to change some of the breakpoints on stuff?
A little bit. I just think in general, elites, especially Legionaries, arguably, like all of them kind of could use help. I play a very killy team, so I'm very biased on this, but I have no problem cutting through Marines. And I just think that there needs to either that or like we drop down to 5 objectives, but something that makes elites like they're not bad by any means, but I feel like are at of any of the 4-ish archetypes there are, I think they're the weakest of all archetypes.
All right, and number 4.
Number 4 is give Exaction Squad something. I don't know what, but they need something too. Exaction Squad is a very cool team, and even though we've seen some of them do pretty well overall in the past, some of our own tournaments, we had good old Matt Remy. I think he finished like 6th or 7th or something at our not Blunt Force, but the cage match. They just are not great. I think they need to have some ploys be free, maybe, or honestly, I would like to see maybe the kill team's first thing of if you accomplish a ploy, get the command point back. We see it a lot in 40k where like, hey, on a 4-up after using a ploy, if this character is on the board, you get that command point back. I would like to see the whole, I'm blanking on what it's called right now, but the exaction one where you select a target. I think that when you kill that target, you should get a command point back if you've done it in the same turn or something, or like within X amount of activations. You wouldn't be able to use it again, of course, for that turn. But for a team that has so many fantastic ploys, but no sort of budget to use them, I think too much of their power budget is put into ploys they can never use.
You don't think they need like an actual real gunner, or I mean, why don't you go with your like 1 wound extra thing there, like you've been doing with Legionaries and Crute?
I think because at this point they're already at 8 and they've got melee stuff, and a lot of their ploys are kind of designed around that. I do think the grenade launcher should also have a frag profile. That's an easy fix. Why don't they have it? It makes no sense that they don't. But I would also either that or give the team across the board 3-up weapon skill. Have them be kind of this weird like reverse of 4-up ballistic skill for the most part, and then 3-up weapon skill.
Yeah, they also have the worst sniper in the game too.
Yeah, the sniper's not great. Their gunner's like a crack is not bad, but that's not all you need. You need a blast gun sometimes. Like AdMech don't have it, but we have that's one of our weaknesses, and we have other ways of getting around horde mitigation. Exaction don't really, which is a shame.
I was listening to Squad Games today, and they were talking about, and it made me think about you. Unfortunately, they were talking
thanks,
about
buddy.
giving you some sort of frag grenade.
I would not say no. I think anyone that does that might be underestimating how insanely broken that would be, because you can now have a Ruststalker charge like say 10 inches, fight someone if you use deploy, and then like throw a frag which could be some deadly alpha strikes, especially in the teams that have 4 deploys. I would not be complaining about that. I would like some sort of frag grenade or some sort of indirect thing. It would be nice, but it would be a significant jump in the strength of Hunterclade, which is already, like, as Tyler so always eloquently says, is everyone's 4th worst matchup. So that would probably make us our 2nd worst matchup for most people.
Now, what if they made it like a frag grenade, but on that frag grenade, you can't throw it if you fight that turn, or you can't fight and throw it?
That could be interesting. I just think that'd be strange because it would be a weird restriction that doesn't, as far as I know, exist on really any other like form of equipment. So it would just be a role that feels really weird, as well as I imagine a lot of people that would just kind of blank and forget on, like, because it'd be a restriction that's in the equipment. You put it on and you might just forget because you're like, I'm going to throw this grenade type of deal.
Well, I mean, they got to call it, they can't call it frag grenade, but they call it like,
Yeah.
ultrasonic.
We have the arc grenade, which is 3/4 AP1 and stun, but that's a narrative only. I'd love to see like a radium grenade, which would be like a frag blast 2 ideally, but 2/4 rending, just like the radium rifles or carbines rather.
Yeah, maybe just make it something like that where it's, part of the narrative portion of it is that because it takes time to prime it, you can't do both or something. Or
that could be kind of cool. I do like, though, it was funny. I'm sad I missed the discussion for Brutal Cunning because there was a great bit in it that was like only a sentence long, but about an excellent reason for why both in 40K and in Kill Team, AdMech don't have grenades. Like, we don't have the grenade keyword on any of our guys in 40K, but it's because one of the tech priests mentioned, like, they don't arm them with grenades because it is a too imprecise of a weapon, and that the Skitari's aim is better spent using a bullet, essentially. I'm like, that is a funny bit that is a great little nod to the game mechanics.
it's nice when they bring lore stuff into the game mechanics too.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun, especially in a way that like that. I think it's, as much as I would love it, the power budget of Hunterclade is fine. We don't realistically need one. I'm not going to complain if we do, but we have strengths to get around the fact that we have no indirect or no blast. And no, the blast 1 pistol does not count. That gun sucks. It is only good if you are somehow landing all 5 ups and hitting 2 targets compared to even the arc gun in ITD.
Number 5.
Terrain needs to be more consistent. This came up in a tournament I went to this weekend, just one of our classic little ITD ones in Tacoma. It was a good time. We all had great. I met someone there that called me their hero, so we'll talk about that later. But my ego through the roof. But anyways, terrain needs to be more consistent. I also posted in the chat, but it's strange to me how, like, on Octarius and, like the Morok fences and Morok stuff, how there's those little divots that you can tuck like a fifth of your 25mm base behind, and as long as you have a conceal order, you count as in heavy cover and like you can't be shot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a fine mechanic. I think it actually kind of works, as weird as it is and looks at times, but it's part of the game, and I've come to understand it. I do not like that stuff like that is extremely inconsistent with it, such as in this came up for a non-obscuring shot. On Octarius, there's 3 types of doors. There's those like oval doors, the ones that are rectangles with like curved edges, and then there's weird ones that are mostly rectangle in shape but have like weird divots to kind of almost make it like a shape that should be 4 edges become something like 16. It's weird. I'll post a photo about it. But what's strange to me is, like, on open, if you are taking cover behind those little divots, that is a-okay. That counts as cover, and it matches visually, which I think is good. But on Into the Dark, the doors, despite having defined shapes and 3 different defined shapes, you have to use it almost as a perfect rectangle from the lowest point of the top and bottom of it, and then the very farthest left and right point of the door, and then imagine that as the visual thing. And there's other cases of stuff like this in the game coming up where it doesn't match visually what it looks like. I think that's dumb. I think that's lame. I got killed and I was a little salty about it because I didn't check with my opponent beforehand, but that's if we were counting those doors. But I had always played ITD of, if I'm using the door like that, that counts as heavy cover and I can take it, and therefore you can't do an unobscured shot on me because I would be obscured as well. Which it didn't get ruled that way, which is totally fine. That's the judge's call, and it's on me for not discussing it beforehand with my opponent. But I think it's really strange how there are inconsistencies in that of whether or not the terrain matches visually what you're saying. And generally, I'm of the opinion that if something looks like that, it should reflect that because our eyes don't lie. But yeah, that's Connor's 5 hot takes of the week.
Well, maybe we can make this a recurring theme for every time it's just you and me.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I've got plenty of hot takes. They're all hot. They might all be extremely unbalanced ideas. I'm not a game designer. I have like a decent understanding of the game, but I'm no expert. If you think my hot takes are smart, leave a comment. If you think they're bad, leave a comment and call them bad. If you think they're okay, do that too.
I'm commenting right now that they're bad.
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it. But I meant more so on our Instagram or Vox Cascadia chat in the Discord.
So tell me about somebody saying that you were their hero.
Yes, I met someone in the Discord, or not, I didn't meet them, but someone in the Discord came in and so they read my guide. First of all, sweet. Thanks so much for reading. I'm glad it was helpful. And it was something that you can enjoy because I put a lot of effort into that, as anyone that's read it can tell. There's probably the most I've ever wrote about something in that. But they came in and they said they liked it, and then we talked about, hey, we have this tournament tomorrow if you want to come, because they're down in the South Sound area with me, and they were like, I've never really played before, and we were like, perfect, this is the perfect time. It's a low key tournament. You'll just get a bunch of games in, and you'll get to meet Brandon, which will be good because he's a good teacher, as Brandon is. Follow his Patreon for that stuff. We love you, Brandon. Yeah, they came to the tournament and they met me, which was really cool. It was a good time, and there we go. It just came to me. Trevor. Trevor is his name. Trevor, if you're listening, thank you so much. But he got to meet me because he asked if I was there, and someone pointed him over to my direction. And like we talked about Hunter Clade as we do. I gave him some advice. I'm like, yeah, the guide's getting updates soon, so keep your eye out for that. But he said I'm his hero because I've wrote so much about Hunter Clade and I've played them so many times. So that meant the world to me. So thank you, Trevor. My ego was through the roof because of you.
Well, here's the thing. I'm here to keep your ego in check. So that's what I am. I'm balance for your ego.
Yeah, you're the yin to Trevor's yang in this case. But no, it's something I've seen a couple of times and always makes me happy. Is another person on the Kill Team subreddit was asking like, "Hey, some Hunter Clay advice," and I was able to give some. And then like I got a bunch of people commenting that like, "Hey, this Spanaway guy, he kind of knows what he's talking about. He's played it a bunch." And then we've had. So, you can listen to his advice, which feels nice. Like I've put a lot of time into playing this stupid game, so it's nice to be able to put stuff back and know that it's being appreciated.
Yeah, I think I saw on the Kill Team subreddit that somebody was asking about Hunter Clade, and so I sent up the Connor signal, and you swooped in right there to go talk about stuff, and it was everything I could do not to just comment and be like, "Fuck, does this guy know? He doesn't know shit," even though you do know.
At least when it comes to my AdMech, I know decently pretty well. But yeah, we've had a couple of people that have joined KTC's Discord, and they don't even live in the Pacific Northwest, but they're just like, yeah, you guys seem like a cool community. And I read the guide, so that always feels awesome whenever I see one of those people in the introduction channel or something.
Well, to feed your ego a little bit more, when I was at Mind Taker this past weekend for my game with Chris, Ryan was there too, who is shooting blanks in our Discord. And he said he loves the podcast. And he said, thanks for doing what we're doing. And he said, tell Connor he sucks. I might have added that last part just for you to keep your ego in check, but he did say a lot of nice things about the podcast.
Well, that is awesome to hear. Thank you so much, Ryan. We appreciate anytime we hear kind words or just words in general, because knowing we're being listened to is pretty cool, if not a little strange. But thankfully, in this case, it's not too parasocial because we know most of you.
So you said you've got some updates for your guide. I browsed the guide. I used it for my building of my AdMech, which they're all primed. I got one painted. I'm gonna paint it a different color though, because I think I'm gonna go just basic bitch box art red with them. Although actually, what was the other, what are they called? They're not chapters. The other one you pointed me to that's red.
Oh, Forge Worlds is what they're called. There's a decent amount. Most of them are red because they all kind of owe loyalty to Mars. Mine aren't because fuck Mars. They fell to Horus, or they rather joined Horus, and that's traitorous. But yeah, Forge Worlds, and I sent you. I think it was Agrippina. I'll have to go look in our chat. But from we've shouted them out before. But on Drama Studio, he's done a great job showing off all the cool Forge Worlds.
Yeah, maybe when I'm done with my Brood Brothers, and I think I'll be done. I think I can get them most of the way done. I've been picking at them, even got some of the basing. Basing's already done, other than just like I need to wash it, and I'm doing like ruined rocks with some rubble around them. So like gray ruined rocks with some brown rubble around them, and then like slime, like they're coming out of the sewers, kind of. Because that's kind of the basing style that's on the Patriarch. But when I'm done with them, maybe I'll try to You'll get back to those guys.
Nice, yeah, that sounds super cool. I like the idea of slime. Slime's always fun, and it's very fitting for Gene Star cults. I feel like they. I imagine you've seen Ghostbusters. That was around your time, right?
Yeah, it's the one. There's a bunch of ectoplasm in it.
Yeah, like I think it was the second one where they go into the sewer and there was the river of ectoplasm. But that's what I like to imagine, like Gene Star cults coming out of the sewers looks like. Oh my god! Wait, Chuck, I just realized you were alive for the Berlin Wall falling, weren't you? I know this is a completely different topic, but I was thinking about that the other day.
That was a weird twist, but yeah, that was the 80s.
How old were you when that happened? Do you remember?
What year was that?
Like, to Google, when did Berlin Wall fall? 1989, November 6th.
I would have been 10.
Okay, do you remember where you were out of that?
Let's see, age 10. I mean, when it happened, no, I didn't watch the news when I was 10.
Okay, now I'm just curious because like it's one of those things that me and Sarah were talking the other day about like how life events, like there's big moments in history where like people will always remember where they were, like when wars end or something. But I'm like, we haven't really had anything. The closest I've had was like COVID, but like that's not as unique because everyone just kind of was in, like, we were at home. That's not really too exciting for the most part. And then like I was too young for like the financial crisis or like 9/11, so I haven't had anything crazy like that yet on those fun topics of historical things that changed the course of history.
Yeah, my first world event that I remember was when I was in kindergarten, actually, first grade, the Challenger explosion. I remember we were going out to recess and they told us that the Challenger blew up. That was my first one. Very vividly, because I was like 22, I think. Remember 9/11. I was working at Blockbuster at the time, watching it live on DirecTV, as they were doing like back-to-back coverage. Financial crisis, yep. Still at Blockbuster at that time. Remember that one? Yeah, I'm trying to think what other big world events happened when I was in my many years.
Yeah, like the closest I have is like the pull out of the U.S. of Afghanistan and how it's kind of like reflecting on people were comparing it to like when Saigon fell in Vietnam, but that's about it for
That,
me, really.
that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but like that's the closest historical one I have, and I for like crazy events, or not even crazy events, but it's like events that were around the world for like news and stuff.
All right. Well, that was
a weird tangent, I know.
a weird tangent, but yeah. So, and I was even trying to talk more about your AdMech. I want to know, with the guide, can we get like a preview, like a short preview, like not 2 hours?
I got
Can we
you.
just get like a I'm gonna give you 90 seconds.
Okay,
Give me a
before the
preview.
90-second start, I did find the forge roll I sent you was Graia. Graia is a pretty cool, like similar to Mars one, but a little bit different red. But you could do either them or a Stiggies, which is a more like red and black one, which I think you might enjoy. That's the one they used for all the art for when Kill Team first came out, when it was originally Gene Stealers versus Admech.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. 90 seconds starting now.
Okay, so first stuff is a lot of just like, oops, I had grammatical errors, like used the same word twice in a row or something like that. So just got to get those changes. I realized that the entire time I wrote Dick Tat as Dick Tack. So I got to go and fix that, which thankfully Control F and find and replace is a good function. Otherwise, this is a lot of just updates of tech I've kind of come up with or seen people, as well as new information on like matchups to bring into the teams. Like, for example, I have it in there, all elves, you should go 4 or 5 balanced rest stalkers. Not true, with the exception of Drukari, that's correct. But Drukari generally 4-6 running, because you need that running to go through the 6 upfield no pain. I'm going to have to put in something for both Night Lords, Brood Brothers, Jaegers, and like all the new teams, because they weren't out when I was running them. But Night Lords might be the single elite team you go 7 Skitarii, 4 Sicarians into. And then otherwise, just team updates, maybe a little bit of grammar stuff, but mostly the team section.
When you discovered that the hard way, I think, in the Kill Team Cascadia tournament, the Skinning Pit Summerslam, about the changes to the AdMech there, right?
Yes, for Drukari, that was actually during my matchup in the Tyler, more so than anything. But I'd fought Hand of the Archon before, but Tyler's a very good player, and the other players I'd played into that, I only had like 2 or 3 matchups into them, were from a newer player, so I hadn't really like I hadn't had an equal footing match essentially because I was doing also training wheels admech, so we were taking it pretty casual. But yeah, with Tyler, it was like, oh shit. If a player knows what they're doing, they're gonna know how to use these field note panes and like injure my rust stalkers, make them a lot less reliable. So 4-6 running is definitely gonna be the way to go. And then same thing like with Night Lords, just the amount of dice manipulation they have kind of really drops the ability of the rust stalkers to be consistent. But they have no way of ignoring injury, and you can upgraded shock trooper to 3-4 rending will hurt a marine, especially when they don't have any sort of ignore injury ploy even built in. So if you can shoot them from far enough away, you're going to probably do like 6 damage. That's going to make them a lot less wanting to charge you.
Well, I'm sure the admech community is waiting with bated breath for your new guide.
Yes, hopefully. No. But yeah, it'll be fun to update.
So you mentioned earlier too, and about the balanced data slate, and my call is the balanced data slate is coming out tomorrow, which would be for anybody who's listening to this on the day it is up on Thursday. One, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Like and give us a 5-star rating.
Please
It
do.
would really help us get some more ears on this, so Connor can spread the word of the Omnissiah. But the balanced data slate came out yesterday. I'm just calling it right now. Connor, what updates are we going to see in the balanced data slate? Now you can't pick AdMech.
Well, we already know, Chuck, because it's already out. No, I think you're crazy. Has it happened on a Wednesday before? I thought generally it was on Thursdays.
It happened on March 27th, 3 months ago tomorrow.
Was that my birthday? Okay, so yeah, I do know it was on my birthday. Was that? I guess it was a Wednesday. So okay, yeah, maybe it will be on Wednesday. I just know 40K is during Thursday. But hopefully something like I already mentioned, Exaction Squad recruit buffs. The play rates for both those factions and win rates are pretty damn small. Hopefully they see that as a sign of people want to play the teams because both teams have great models and people enjoy the building and painting process of them. But playing them is just not too fun. So hopefully we see some changes and buffs to them.
Yeah, I built a full roster, except a couple shotguns of his Exaction Squad. 3 shields and all these specialists, and played them twice. And this was pre any buffs, and I haven't played them since, but from what it sounds like, they haven't got any better.
Yeah, they're not the best, which is a shame. Otherwise, I hope to see some manjank changes. Mostly just that leader's like, hey, I'm going to delay all the time. I really don't think that's very healthy or fun for it. I've seen it, at multiple times block like 4 activations in a row. That's just bullshit. It shouldn't do that. It should block
Yeah, I
maybe
think if
one.
they gave him one per turn, maybe, or I think that'd be a lot better because yeah, just being able to just keep doing it until you roll seems kind of dumb.
Yeah, just make it either once per turn and he gets a side rather than a roll off. Ideally, I'd prefer still the roll off because it's still auto having it guaranteed would be crazy. Or if anything, kind of make it like it's just a scratch where it's gone. And then if he gets a kill in melee, it can turn back on that turn or something. But
Well, and you've already said you want to give Kroot, I think 16 wounds. You said you wanted to give Legionaries 13 wounds. You going to see that in the new data slate? Because Kroot still need help, even though Kroot did win a golden ticket actually.
yeah, but like one case isn't enough, Like it's cool, well done to that player. That definitely took some work, unless it's like a 2-player event.
Well, I think he was. I want to say he was like second at Dallas or something.
Okay, so it's clearly, yeah, it's clearly a player that's very good at the game, and they probably know what they're doing. Maybe they've discovered some Kroot tech that no one else has, but
yeah, Nick saw that. Actually, I think I sent Nick the podcast. I think it was just another kill team that had him on with that, and I sent that to Nick, and he listened to it. He's like, so should I switch back to Kroot? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't. You were miserable with Kroot. He's like, I think I should. This is what you're telling me. I'm like, no, please don't.
no, Nick, don't do it. Like play them. They're super cool, but hopefully they can get some stuff to make them a little bit more fun to play. But no, I don't think we're gonna see any significant changes to elites. Maybe some adjustments for Night Lords now that they've been out around enough time that I think they're in the possible eating exchange bonus.
I don't know. I mean, Night Lords are being played a lot, but it's only been, I don't know, like 3.5 months since they came out.
Yeah, but there's been another release since then, which is generally the cutoff. Like the first data slate, like for 40K and Kill Team, after it's come out, they generally don't touch the teams because it hasn't been enough time. But at this point, I think they've got in theory, enough data to maybe make an adjustment for them, especially if they're doing something for Mandrakes. They might touch Night Lords, but I think Night Lords are okay for the most part.
And then, what do you think they should do with orcs? So my Tuesday routine is I wake up, I turn on squad games, go for a run, listen to some squad games, and throughout the day. And then I steal their content and we talk about it in the evening. And one thing they talked about is that the orcs, while they got just a scratch nerf, it wasn't really that much of a nerf, and they're still winning and placing a ton. So what do you think the orcs could use to bring them down just a little bit more?
Have they made it so you can only bring this, like, drop the operative back one, like from that buff a while ago?
No, they changed it so you can't, I believe you can't modify the APL of the squig.
Mm-hmm.
But I think basically they changed the, gosh, what was it, the sneaky git, so you can't do that multiple times, and then they changed just a scratch so it's only saves in normal. But and then they made the, so you can't modify the APL on the squig, but they're still winning and they're still being played a ton too.
Yeah, like I think in part they're being played a ton, both because they come in the starter set, they're a one box team, and they're very good at teaching players the game because they each one has a unique data sheet, which I think is more important than anything else for like game 2 and beyond of figuring out how to play kill team. So I think that's why they have a high play rate. Is they're super fun and they're just fun models to build and paint. Or not so much building. They're a nightmare to build. They're probably one of the worst, but
They're horrible to build.
they're a great team overall, which is why I think we see a high play rate of them. But maybe going back and reversing that, you can bring both the squig and the garrote. But I'd hate to see that go because I do like having both of them on the board. I think they're very unique agents. Maybe doing something where like you have to drop a proper orc entirely, but that seems like a very drastic change. So I don't know if they do that, and I don't know really. I think honestly, from in my experience, fighting orcs has been pretty felt fair ever since the not multiple sneaky get stuff, but they're doing well overall. So there's definitely something they might touch with them. I just can't place with what.
Now, what do you think about Pathfinders? I know everybody hates playing Pathfinders. Sean, you should bring Pathfinders to Tacoma. Don't listen to anybody else. Just listen to me, buddy. But Pathfinders maybe are a little overtuned right now with the ability to bring the recon drone without losing a model. Is there anything you think that they need to get touched?
Recon back to 2, probably. I think it's ridiculous with how strong it is, and Analyze is very powerful. Make it back to 2. That's fair. Also, they haven't touched it yet, so they probably won't. But I'd really like to see the Recon's like auto deployment on Into the Dark be not fixed, but just it's stupid that can happen. Like, come on.
What about Felgor? Felgor is still super good, except when they're in the hands of me.
Give Admech a grenade. No, that's my big answer. Felgor, one of our tougher matchups. What they talk about in squad games? I'm curious to see what they said. I haven't listened yet today.
I can't remember what they said about the Felgor. I mean, they kind of talked about overall with teams that, like, when you lose the ability, if you don't have the ability, and this is more of a, probably not for this edition, but for third edition, if you lose the ability to do a mission objective, you count for like half for controlling. Like, if you can't do a mission objective, you count for half of controlling. So say you, like, the Felgor can't, I mean, and they still are already kind of that way, but I can't remember what they said. But let's we'll have an original thought for a moment, and what would we do to fix them?
I think Felgor overall feel okay. I don't want to change any of the frenzy stuff. I think frenzy's relatively fine. I think at that point you start messing with data sheets and making abilities a little bit worse. Like I think the Gnarl Scar, I think the guy that can turn to conceal, maybe make it that they can't do that on the first turn, so that kind of delays that whole charge forward, throw a crack, and then not get punished for it thing. Or maybe say
Maybe
they can't do that if they made a shooting attack.
Yeah, I think that's part of their thing, though. Is, I mean, then you're kind of really breaking them. What about maybe they can only do it once per game? Although I don't know if they're actually doing that multiple times per game.
Yeah, it's pretty much just for the crack. But I guess the problem is if you make it so they can't do that, and they can't also throw the crack in melee either anymore, that's a very big nerf to that character.
What if they took them all down to 9 wounds or knocked 1 wound off each of them?
Ooh, that could be useful for shooting teams, especially.
Yeah, because their break points change a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing shit out there.
I could see that. Maybe it'd be pretty tough. But because maybe make it they can properly get killed during frenzied by a shooting attack, even if you don't do a crit, but like they count as essentially having 5 HP, and if you do 5 HP, they drop. Because I think it's a little lame that you still need a crit. Because if I land 4 hits, that's still 4 hits into a guy that's already pseudo dead. Why doesn't that count?
Yeah, I think something like, yeah, they basically have 4 or 5 undead hit points.
Yeah, like you've never played League of Legends, so you don't know. But there's a couple of characters in the game that, like, when they die, their health bar fills back up, but is like draining every second. So they essentially like have a little bit extra time alive, which is kind of how I imagine Frenzy. So, and you can make that bar of health, like every bit of damage they take, it also drops. I think that could be kind of representative of that in Kill Team, where it's like they have 5 hit points, so you can either get the crit in melee, or if you shoot them well enough, they drop. Because
What about this? How about so when you frenzy a goat, they die after 5 more activations.
ooh,
So
like it's got like a timer on it essentially.
yeah, and maybe they even like, and this is like just wildly breaking the team, but like maybe they even go back to being readied. They can't activate next, but they within like 5 activations they just die. I mean, probably also like if you frenzied a couple guys, it'd be a lot of extra like math or like extra note keeping and bookkeeping for it. But I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. This is why I don't design games.
Yeah, neither of us are game designers really, so we're coming at it from a very broad spectrum. I do like that idea. I think the timer's kind of cool. You'd have to make it on the Felgor players' activations, because like into Vet Guard, that wouldn't be fair, because Vet Guard can just out activate them, or certain teams can pretty hard, and then it's like, oh, you only really had one opportunity to use that frenzy guy, and there was nothing he could do, which would be kind of lame. But I could see that potentially being something.
I mean, what if they just made it that when you're frenzied, you then, I mean, and this would like be a huge nerf to frenzy. It might totally put the team in the ground. If you're not readied, so
Oh, like you only get the frenzy if you have yet to go this turn, essentially.
no, I'm thinking more like you become ready again. Say if you're not ready and you're frenzied, you become ready again and then die at the end of the turning point, or
That could be kind of neat, but that could be really strong too. Like if you charge, that means them charging and failing to kill someone and then frenzying themselves. They'd come back, if I'm understanding you correctly, which would be real, real strong.
yeah, kind of. I mean, but then also too, like you won't have like a frenzied goat, because you get frenzied and then you could hold that frenzied goat until 15 other guys activate.
I guess it's true. Yeah.
I don't know, but
I'm
well,
honestly okay with goats at this point. I think they're frustrating at times to play against, but I think the nerfs have been effective in making them less prevalent, which is good, because I think a very strong melee team deserves a spot in the game. It's just unfortunately, especially with how a lot of people build maps, it can be a little bit too good if they have too many ways of moving safely. So it might be an issue of map placement more than anything.
well, we'll find out, or we will have already found out by the time you listen to this. So, and we've got some great Ask Vox Cascadia questions, but I want to hold off on those until next week. Addie, Space Ghost, she's got a couple of great questions that I really want to get Tyler's input and not just Connor's input. And although Nick has a great question,
Am
so
I not good enough?
answer it.
Okay, fine. If we're answering Nick's, I'll feel okay that my input's not well enough, Chuck.
Oh no, I just think that Connor's going to have some great answers to these too. But Nick has a question
You mean
specifically
Tyler's gonna?
for.
We are messing up names left and right this episode and
Uh,
last episode.
well, I messed up one name. You messed up. You
You
messed up
did it
last time.
first, and that
No, I didn't. I
caused
never.
me to mess
I
up.
didn't. I don't think I did. I'm
Well, regardless, Sean and Josh, you wonderful people, we are sorry for messing up your names. It was all Chuck's idea.
No, it wasn't. It was. Okay, so Nick asks, of all his demands he makes on his rider for personal appearances at events or on podcasts, what are just the 5 most outrageous ones Connor requires? So, Connor, do you know what a rider is?
It's like to get someone to appear, they have that, and someone like they request like booze or something, right? Like rock stars did it back in the day.
These are rock stars still do it to this day. So it's essentially a list of like the things that you have to have in the green room before you go on stage. So famously, some artists had it was like a brandy glass full of just brown M&Ms. It was a band. I can't remember who the band was.
That's not too bad. Okay. Yeah. So first one, 12 pack Diet Dr Pepper, already cool. I need that stuff to live. I love Diet Dr Pepper. It's great. I drink it too much, so that'd probably be rider number one.
What about like Diet Coke or like Coke
No,
Zero? Could you
Coke,
do that?
Diet Coke is dog awful. Coke Zero is okay. Here's Connor's checklist. Diet Dr Pepper, way up there. Then Diet Pepsi, then pretty close behind Coke Zero, then like a decent drop, Pepsi Max, which is like their version of Pepsi or of Coke Zero, and then like 16 stores beneath all of that, and beneath like the bones of dinosaurs is Diet Coke. Diet Coke is ass, especially if it comes in a bottle. It's slightly better in a can, but if it's in a bottle, it's always ass.
I actually like a fountain drink Diet Coke.
Fountain drink Diet Coke is better. It's definitely the best of all three, and it's not 16 stories down. It's only like maybe like only one story down. But from a can or a bottle, Diet Coke is terrible.
All right, so Diet Dr Pepper chilled.
Yes.
Number 2. What's the second on Connor's rider list?
I want In-N-Out. That's up there, especially if we're on the West Coast, which for most of us are. We're finally getting In-N-Out in like very southern Washington, like the next town north of Vancouver. But I will be there opening day.
Why would you even subject yourself to that?
I
mean,
like
when you come
In-N-Out.
down.
Okay,
It can't be that good.
it's not like it's bad. Or like it's the best burger ever. It's a pretty pretty damn good burger. But what makes it so damn good is A, the speed that you get it, B, the consistency of how damn good it is, and C, the price. The price point for In-N-Out is incredibly good, which is what brings it up to like top fast food for me out of any.
Here's the thing though. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the speed.
Mhm.
Okay. When you get to the window, it's probably pretty quick. But the 2 hours that you're waiting in line to get to the window, you have to figure that into the speed. That's not fast.
I don't go through drive-through. That's a rookie's mistake, Chuck. You got to go into the restaurant. You got to be a little bit social, and they give you a fun hat when you do, so it's worth it.
Well, they give all the little kids fun hats.
Yeah, and I like the hats. I'm In-N-Out and Krispy Kreme give me hats, which is a full it's why they're better than other places. They're part of the reason.
I mean, Burger King has hats too.
No, those are crowns, and I don't want to be royalty. Those guys are assholes.
I mean, we're sitting here talking about your rider for personal appearances, and you don't want to be royalty. All right, Diet Dr Pepper, In-N-Out, number 3.
Someone to listen to me talk about AdMech and why they're the best.
And this is why we haven't been able to book any live appearances.
Yeah, it's too many people just rather die than let me talk for like 15 minutes. It's dangerous.
Number 4. I'm just gonna cut you off before you even talk about how you can't talk about anime.
Rude. Number 4. What would number 4 be? Free hobby supplies. I want either paint or a box to work on in the meantime. Doesn't have to be AdMech, but generally a kit I'd enjoy.
So what if somebody's like, what if the hobby supplies though are like the Army Painter War Paint originals?
Hobby supplies. I'll make a wish list of what I'd want to be given.
All right. So what's on your wish list?
Any of the Two Thin Coats range. The stuff is great. I really like that. Any AdMech models for the most part. Any Crute models for the most part. Any Sisters models for the most part. Some Knights. I'm always down for Knights. Those are fun. They're great builds.
So what's a model that somebody brings it in, you walk into the green room and you're like, you've got your crazy flashy glasses on, you've got like a sequin jacket, like way too tight skinny jeans, and you walk in, you're ready to perform, and you see what box on the table next to the In-N-Out and the Diet Dr Pepper and the person who's going to listen to that makes you turn around and walk right out and you're not performing.
Electro Priest. Those models suck.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
No, don't you dare. I actually don't need any. I'm in the process of converting some out of the Carrick Acolytes from Sigmar. But yeah, Electro Priest, those models, not a big fan of. They don't look great. I don't know if there's any Sisters models I don't need. Maybe more battle. No, I do with more Battle Sisters. They're fun.
Is there any specific like army that any model from that army's hard no?
Dwarves for the most part. Not that I dislike the faction. I think they're fine. I'm glad people finally got their dwarves, but just none of the models really do anything for me other than like kind of the land fortress. They're like little dune buggy things, but even then I'm like, eh.
So here's my thing with those. I feel like I feel like pictures don't do those models justice. I feel like you get those models, you build them, and you have them in your hand, and they're much more attractive than they are in pictures.
I
I
will
felt the
agree to
same
that.
way.
I think they look a lot better in person than the photos. I think the color schemes that they did for them aren't that exciting. Like it's just a teal. It doesn't really pop like Blood Angels or like bright red or bright blue does. It's kind of a meh color.
That's why I went with the orange for my Hearthkin Salvagers.
Yeah, the orange looks definitely better, but I don't particularly care for them. In part because they embrace the unhelmeted face more than anything else, and I know you can build them with helmeted options, but I don't like the models without helmets. I think it looks a little goofy, especially for the dwarves.
So,
Otherwise,
Diet Dr.
elves.
Pepper.
I don't like elf models either.
Elves are a no.
Yeah, like Drukhari a little bit, but like only the Incubi really and like the basic Drukhari kind of do it for me. And for Corsair,
Like the
yeah,
weird kinky elves.
no, the yeah, a little bit more, but like the only Eldari models I particularly care for are the Rangers and the Rangers on like the speeder bike things.
I like the Rangers. I think the Rangers are cool.
Yeah.
I wish they would have. I wish more of them had. I don't know, anything with a cloak.
Yeah, cloaks are
Anything with
always
a
cool.
cloak's
It's
great.
just it's awesome. Speaking of cloaks, actually, sorry, we're going back to Admech. I saw someone that kit bashed on their Skitari. They put them all with the hoods down for their Rangers, and they gave them like big fur coats like Vikings and like Arctic Warriors, and they looked sick as hell.
All right, so Diet Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
In and out.
Yep.
Someone to listen to you talk about Admech for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Hobby stuff that's not most elves. What is number 5?
Women. No, that's sexist, and I wouldn't.
Sierra. Sierra.
Exactly. That's the real answers. I'm plenty happy with Sierra. I don't need. That's the weird thing to me about rock stars is how they always have like. There's all these stories about them just being total dogs, and I'm like, I don't understand how you have that in you to do that. I just would fumble those women. I fumble bad bitches left and right. That's all I did for like the first 20 years until I met Sierra. So I couldn't be that.
Pardon. Hold on. You broke up for a second. I'm pretty sure you said I fumbled bad bitches left and right.
Yes.
That's going to be a new audio file for Nick.
Oh, I mean, it's true. Chuck, I hate to say like those, oh, I could be a sitcom character, but there are multiple stories from high school Connor just getting in the weirdest situations trying to find dates up until like Sierra really. It's honestly quite funny looking back, but like the junior year of high school till like till I was 22 years old, not a great time in regards to getting a stable relationship.
I fumbled bad bitches left and right. Sounds like that's so maybe we'll do like a Vox Cascadia after dork. That's gonna be our Patreon about Connor's dating life.
It was there's plenty of funny stories looking back, but for a taste, I went on a like date with a girl that I met on Tinder. So I get there, it's great, going well, or like driving there, we didn't hit it off, so this is our first time meeting. I go to the table and I'm like, oh, there she is, and then I look to the table next to us, and her entire family was there as well,
doing
just like, eating dinner as well, but like. It was just strange because we're like 22 at this point. Why is your entire family there?
I mean, if I matched with you on Tinder and was going to date you, I'd probably want a lot of backup too.
That's, like I can understand, like women have to be safe because unfortunately men are dogs and monsters. But not your entire family. That's just crazy. That just threw me off the entire time that I like essentially left the date early because it was just so awkward because any conversation we had, like one of her family members would butt in and she didn't seem to like really mind that. I'm like, this is just weird. I don't like this vibe.
I mean, that's a giant green flag. I think that like you should have went with that because you definitely were going to be able to have like a relationship with just her and her family wasn't going to be butting in the entire time.
Exactly.
From date one.
Yeah, totally. There was at the time in high school, a goth girl that invited me to a seance in the woods, which if I was a little bit more risky or less risky adverse, I would have taken it. But goth girl inviting me to a seance in the woods, I'm probably being a human sacrifice. And while that could be kind of neat, I don't want to die. So I had to turn that one down too.
Did you tell her that like your blood doesn't work correctly or
she knew I was diabetic. So if anything, that might have been like a bonus that I had like weird fucked up blood.
Okay, cool. All right. So
yeah, but that was, so yeah, back to number 5, I guess, huh?
So hold on, let's recap them again.
Mhm.
We had chilled diet Dr. Pepper, In and Out, someone to listen to Connor drone on, hobby supplies. Number 5.
I don't know. I have most of what I need because I'm young and dumb and don't be smart with my finances. So I guess it's more money. But like I want $133.60, but like made up out of weird denominations of bills. Like I want like two 20s, a 50, 31s, and like something. What would your number 5 be, Chuck?
My number 5. Let's see. Gosh, I don't even know what my 1 through 4 would be. But you're the one who's got the like rock star celebrity ego from this, not me.
Yeah, that's true. Some go-go boots, so then I could finally experience what it's like to be tall. Are
So
go-go
what?
boots the one that make you tall from like disco days?
No, I think go-go boots are just kind of like. I think go-go boots had a bit of a heel on them. I think
Mm-hmm.
you just want. Do you want just like
I
stilts?
guess stilts.
Just like a step stool, small
I
folding
guess,
ladder, maybe.
yeah. That or I want like a celebrity there. It doesn't like just any celebrity really. Just someone that's like famous I can take a photo with. I
But
guess
like,
that's
how famous are we talking about?
decent. They've been in either a movie or a TV show with a character that had a proper name and not just like Untitled Goon or not Untitled Goon, excuse me, Untitled like Goon number 6 or something.
So like, if you who, so I need you to throw out a name for me. I need to know the like
Uh
level of celebrity that you need.
Anywhere from like Adam Scott, which was like he's like a pretty casual guy. He's in a couple of shows like Parks and Rec. So something like oh my god, Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford or like no Tom Cruise right now. Even though he's kind of weird and like a Scientologist, he makes a lot of good movies. So I can kind of overlook the weird cult.
So Diet Dr. Pepper,
Yep,
In and Out.
yep.
What if Tom Cruise just listening to you talk about AdMech, or do you want a separate person to listen to you talk about AdMech and Tom Cruise?
I want like 2 different people in this case. Because like the celebrities, just so I can like get a high five with them and like take a selfie with. They don't need to listen, but I'd appreciate it if they did.
What if it turns out that like Tom Cruise? What if Tom Cruise hates the AdMech?
Different celebrity then.
What if the celebrity that, and you don't know this until they get there, they hate the AdMech. In fact, they love Mars even too, but they hate the AdMech.
I mean, I like Mars in reality. I just don't care for them as AdMech. That's okay because that clearly means they at least are familiar with the hobby enough that they'd probably listen to why I like them.
What if they don't like the AdMech only because they've heard me talk shit about the AdMech?
Then I'm gonna be really annoyed with you, but I can still take a selfie with them.
That's fair. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining me. Sorry, Tyler, we miss you.
We do miss you, Tyler. You keep us on track somewhat.
Yeah, he also does just as much to put us off track, but it's always fun when we do.
Yes.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us. If you can, please go and like our show, subscribe to the show, give us a 5-star rating, write a nice comment about us, write a crappy comment about us, especially if it's about the AdMech.
No, not
You can
that one.
find us. You can find us on at Vox_Cascadia on Instagram. I'm Painting Caves at Painting Cave Minis on Instagram. Tyler is at Lowbrow Minis and dicezero.bigcartel.com. It's coming up to the end of the month. His shirts are actually, I gotta get my Pride shirt ordered. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, those shirts are going away soon. A lot of the crop tops, I think I ordered the one for Sierra the other day, but those are ending I think on like the 30th. So if you're listening to this, you got like 4 days or less to buy those and go buy them. They're awesome.
Also, tickets for Killscream 3 are live and we are selling through them, so make sure you get yours. We also now have a link for the discounted hotel. Actually, it's on the Max line, which is the mass transit in Portland, and just a few blocks from Lloyd Center at the Doubletree Hilton. So go to cascadiatabletop.com to get your Killscream tickets.
Very true. Also, yeah, we're excited for Killscream 3. It's gonna be awesome. I know Sierra, who's sitting behind me right now. Hi, babe. Love you. She's been working very hard on the CritCon. Or whoops, I don't know if we've announced that name. So cancel that. Cut that out, Chuck.
No, it's the website. It actually takes you to.
Okay, so then they can cut out the second half of that. Let me just go back. Yeah, she's been working really hard on the CritCon logo with Tyler. So I'm very excited to see the website like fully functioned and everything. And we're very excited for Killscream 3. So thank you everyone that's purchased tickets already.
Yeah, the website's currently a work in progress.
We are not tech people. We are tabletop people.
we are not. So there's a little bit to do on it, but you can still get your tickets there. And the sooner you get them, the more we can do, because it helps us to fund this little soiree and
The more we
and
can convince GW to release the potential next edition on the day of Killscream 3.
maybe we will be the one that has like
The first box.
yeah, who knows? So
yeah. Buy Tacoma Open tickets too. They might already entirely be sold out. Who knows? But
yeah, and you can come up and play against me and my meta chasing brood brothers and Connor and his everybody's fourth worst matchup.
yeah, and one thing we'll definitely want to do is not even just Vox Cascadia, but most of you listening are probably somewhat familiar with KTC. But we're definitely going to try and somewhat organize they generally have like a statue of a Terminator. We're going to try and get a photo of like everyone that's from KTC or even like someone in the Discord at all. All of us standing in front of that, which will be, I don't know, a lot of players, but we'd love to do that. And so if you're listening, make sure you join the server. So when we make the announcement for when we're going to try and organize that, you're aware of it.
All right, Connor, thanks for hanging out. Oh, and where can the people find you?
At Spanaway on everything as always.
And look for the updated AdMech guide.
Yep.
And I'm sure it'll be
disregardingdice.com. Our good friend Zach.
Yeah, and also actually at Tacoma, or no, is it at Tacoma? No, yeah, at Tacoma. I think on Thursday and Friday, Zach is actually going to be doing his miniature photo booth.
Yes, I believe that is correct. I saw something about that in our chat today. But yeah, that's the main thing Zach does beyond making cool battle reports and hosting some guides and stuff. He's a photographer by trade, or by hobby. I don't know exactly. But anyways, he's got a great setup. And he always, at tournaments for the most part, will go and get photos of people's teams. And they turn out incredible. Like, go check out the website. You'll see what we're talking about. You might be able to throw some up on the Instagram page as well. But yeah, it's an experience you definitely want to do because it makes your models look like the sexiest things on planet.
Well, they said it couldn't be done, but I put up with you for an hour and a half by myself.
I appreciate it, Chuck. This was pretty fun. Tyler, we miss you. Please come back. But
please, God, Tyler, come back. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.